It's April 2026. A Philippine Coast Guard patrol plane is flying a routine surveillance pass near Scarborough Shoal, a reef sitting inside the Philippines' own exclusive economic zone. A Chinese Air Force aircraft moves to intercept it. In the waters below, Chinese maritime militia vessels are swarming Filipino fishing boats. And just days earlier, Philippine naval personnel reported something that should have been front-page news everywhere they found cyanide on Chinese vessels operating near Second Thomas Shoal. Not metaphorical poison. Actual, laboratory-confirmed, ecosystem-destroying cyanide. This is what gray zone warfare looks like in 2026. No declarations, no missiles, just slow, deliberate suffocation. But here's what didn't make the headlines not in the way it deserved. While Beijing was poisoning reefs and deploying floating barriers to block Filipino fishermen from their own waters, a very different kind of vessel was quietly completing its crew training at a U.S. Coast Guard facility, preparing to sail south under a new flag, the flag of the Philippine Coast Guard. America's answer to China's slow siege just arrived. And it came in the form of an 87-foot patrol boat. Welcome to the Indo-Pacific Report. The scholar Graham Allison, who coined the term Thucydides' trap, warned us that when a rising power challenges an established one, the risk of catastrophic conflict becomes structural. The South China Sea is where that theory is being stress-tested in real time. And Manila is at the sharp end of it. So, what exactly has the United States just transferred to the Philippine Coast Guard? The Marine Protector class is an 87-foot coastal patrol cutter, roughly 27 meters long, built by Bollinger Shipyards in Louisiana on a hull design by the Dutch firm Damen Group. It displaces around 102 tons, carries a crew often, hits a top speed of 25 knots, and has a range of 900 nautical miles. It is armed with 50 caliber Browning M2 heavy machine guns. These are not warships. They are not meant to fight a Chinese destroyer. That is not the point. Think of these vessels as the difference between having a presence and being absent. In maritime law enforcement, in gray zone confrontations, the vessel that shows up, that physically occupies contested space, is the one that sets the terms. The Marine Protector gives the Philippine Coast Guard the ability to position itself faster, sustain patrols longer, and respond to incidents in real time at the granular shoal-level geography that defines this conflict. The Chinese Coast Guard boats harassing Filipino fishermen are not nuclear submarines. They are enforcement vessels. Presence vessels. And the answer to a presence campaign is presence. That's the logic of this transfer. This didn't happen overnight. The roots of this transfer go back to May 2023, when Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. made his state visit to Washington. The White House committed to transferring a package of military assets to the armed forces of the Philippines, among them 2 Marine Protector class cutters and 2 Island-class patrol boats, alongside 3 C-130H Hercules aircraft. What followed was a multi-year process. Philippine sailors traveled to the United States for crew familiarization and training. The Embassy of the Republic of the Philippines in Washington posted training photos. Bureaucratic machinery moved. Then, on February 16, 2026, the Pentagon finalized the contract. Philippine Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Ronnie Gavin sat across the table from John No, the U.S. Defense Department's Assistant Secretary for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs, and signed the package. The transfer package includes the Marine Protector class vessels and, crucially, 3 Beechcraft King Air turboprop aircraft designated for maritime domain awareness, the ability to watch, track, and document what is happening across Philippine waters from the air. The mechanism used is the Excess Defense Articles Program. America's surplus becomes Manila's shield. The transfer costs the U.S. relatively little. The strategic return is significant. As strategist Robert Kaplan once observed, Geography is the ultimate determinant of what's possible in geopolitics. Manila's geography, 7,641 islands, sprawled across the maritime approaches to the Pacific, makes presence at sea not just a military priority, but an existential one. Now let's step back and read the signal, because this transfer is about more than boats. The United States has spent the past 3 years systematically building out the Philippine military's capacity in 2 specific areas: maritime domain awareness and gray zone response capability. Look at the pattern. The Philippine Navy received Hamilton-class cutters, former U.S. Coast Guard high-endurance cutters that far outclass anything the Philippine fleet previously operated. It received retired Cyclone-class patrol vessels. It received American-built assault boats and unmanned surface vessels. U.S. Navy SEALs have been training Philippine Special Forces in small boat defensive tactics. American Special Operations craft have been deployed to the Luzon Strait. And now, the Philippine Coast Guard is receiving dedicated patrol capability. The distinction matters. Coast Guard operations occupy a different legal and diplomatic space than naval operations. When a Coast Guard vessel responds to a Coast Guard confrontation, it de-escalates the legal framing even while maintaining presence. Beijing has long exploited this by using its own Coast Guard as the primary instrument of intimidation. Washington is now ensuring Manila can respond in kind legally, operationally, and with credibility. The message to Beijing is subtle but unmistakable. Every gray zone move you make, we will help Manila match. John Mearsheimer, the offensive realist whose framework has proven uncomfortably accurate across the Indo-Pacific, argues that great powers inevitably seek regional hegemony and resist rivals doing the same. What we are watching is the United States attempting to build a distributed network of capable frontline partners who can impose costs on Chinese expansion at the local level. Here is the larger story because the United States is not the only one responding. In May 2025, the Philippines signed a $438 million contract with French shipbuilder OSHA for 40 high-speed multi-role patrol vessels, 35-meter fast patrol boats designed for exactly the kind of sustained presence operations the South China Sea demands. 20 of those vessels will be built locally in the Philippines. The first batch is expected before the end of 2026. On March 26, 2026, the Philippines signed a reciprocal access agreement with France, allowing French forces to operate from Philippine territory. Just weeks earlier, similar access deals were already in force with Japan, which signed its own reciprocal agreement in 2024. And this week, April 9 to 12, the United States, Australia, and the Philippines conducted their second joint maritime exercises of this year alone in the South China Sea. Coming on April 20 is Balikatan 2026, the annual U.S.-Philippine War Games, now with Japan as a full participant for the first time, no longer just an observer. The geopolitical architecture being assembled here is significant. The Philippines is not simply a bilateral U.S. ally anymore. It is becoming a hub node in a networked alliance system that includes Japan in the north, Australia in the south, France with its extensive Indo-Pacific territories, and the United States as the anchor. Chinese analyst Wu Shikun, founding president of the National Institute for South China Sea Studies, recently admitted that a South China Sea Code of Conduct, Beijing's preferred diplomatic instrument for managing these tensions on its own terms, is, and I quote the sentiment, simply not achievable while the Philippines holds the ASEAN chairmanship in 2026. Manila will bring the 2016 arbitration ruling back to the table. China knows it. And China knows that the window for diplomatic management of this dispute on Beijing's terms is closing. So where does this leave us? The Marine protectors arriving in Philippine Coast Guard service are symbolic of something much larger than their 87-foot hulls suggest. They are proof that the United States has made a strategic commitment not just in treaty language, not just in the fine print of the Mutual Defense Treaty, but in hardware. These patrol boats give Manila more capacity, more presence, more confidence, but they do not resolve the fundamental ambiguity that Beijing is deliberately exploiting. And as long as that ambiguity exists, China will continue testing where the line is. The Foundation for Defense of Democracies published analysis just 2 days ago, April 16, arguing that the United States must not just provide equipment, but must increase the tempo of combined patrols, harden airfields in western Palawan, and sustain a visible multinational presence that challenges Beijing's slow normalization of control. The boats have arrived. The alliance is deepening. The question now is whether the political will to actually use that presence consistently, visibly, because in the South China Sea, presence is not a guarantee, but absence is a surrender. What do you think? Is the United States doing enough, or is this alliance architecture being built too slowly against a Chinese timeline that is moving faster? Drop your view in the comments. If this analysis matters to you, subscribe to the Indo-Pacific Report. We cover what the mainstream misses: the slow moves, the strategic signals, and the geography that will define the next century. See you in the next one.